Hey Hannah, I hope you're feeling okay. Whenever you're feeling okay to look at this, that'd be great. This is what we did on Friday. You are going to be excused from this. Uh, it won't affect your grade at all, but it is important for you to know. So thanks for taking the time to look at this so we can have you ready to move forward. So we introduced a new tool in our toolbox today. And we said, whoops, sorry. We thought about it by introducing this problem right here. We have x squared is equal to 9. Well, we wanted to say, well, what does that mean in words first? Well, it just means some number when you multiply it by itself. I gotta put this trackpad down here. Multiplied to itself equals 9. So then we're asked, how many solutions are there to that? Well, the naive answer is 1, because we know that 3 squared is equal to 9, right? Because 3 times 3 is equal to 9. But what we're learning now is that there's actually 2 solutions. The second solution is -3. If -3 times -3 is also equal to 9, because when we multiply 2 negatives, they cancel. So when we're asked how to solve it, well, we have to consider both positive and negative possibilities. So from something like this, what we should be able to learn is that x squared functions or quadratic functions have a maximum, a max of 2 solutions. And we can actually expand that, because when you're going to go on to bigger courses, harder courses, see, we have this x squared here, x to the power of 2, and we have 2 solutions. The number of solutions to an equation is tied to that maximum power. So number of solutions let me move down a little bit, depends on, I'm just going to say maximum exponent of x. Seems simple enough, right? We're not going to be dealing with anything more with a power greater than 2 yet, or for the rest of this course. Okay, so now we change course and talk about this one. Well, in the same way, I'm not going to write this down, but x squared is equal to -5. In words, that just means, okay, take some number, and you multiply it by itself, and you get -5. So there's 2 things wrong with this, or 2 things that might be troubling. One is that if we're thinking of 5, we don't have it's not what we call a perfect square. You know, like 2 times 2 is equal to 4, 3 times 3 is equal to 9, 4 times 4 is equal to 16, and so on. But the more troubling thing, which might even be more subtle, is that this thing's negative. And no matter as long as you're not using 0, any number that you square becomes positive. I'll say that again. Any number multiplied by itself is going to be a positive number. Like, just like with before, -3 times -3 gives you a positive 9. You're getting a positive number no matter what. The exception is if you do 0 squared, because you just get 0. 0 times 0 is 0. So how do you solve it? We can't. It's impossible. That is just not a possibility that we can solve for that. Okay. So in order to get rid of a squared sign, we're introducing a new tool in our shed, in our tool belt, whatever you want to call it. We call it the square root, and it looks like that. So we call it the square root. It's called that because these perfect square numbers, if you can think about it, if we drew a square, man, this isn't drawing for me. If this is a square and like the area of this is 9, the area is 9 by saying like, oh, that's 3 times 3. So like that 3 is the root of the value of that square. So when we do this, so an important note for this, when we're using this in our equations, we need to consider, I'll just say positive and negative roots, or square roots separately. And also just every square root has a positive and negative answer, with the exception of 0 and negative numbers, right? It's every possible square root and negative has positive and negative solutions. So here I'm going to be doing a couple of these just to give you an idea. So some of these are simple enough. Square root of 25. What number times itself gives us 25? Well, we'll say 5, but we also want to make sure that when we're solving our equations, we're doing -5. 49 square root is 7 and -7. Square root of 144 is 12 and -12. The tricky one square root, it's 1 and -1. And this one here, square root of 12. Well, that's a tricky one because we don't have a perfect square of 12. It's, if we had 3 squared, we'd get 9, right? But if we had 4 squared, we'd get 16. So it's somewhere between 3 and 4, but we don't know. So there's a few things that we can do. One of the things is we can put it in our calculator and get an estimate. The estimate is about 3.46. But later, if you're taking algebra 2, you're going to want to know that this 3.46, there are more decimal places to it, and there's actually an infinite number of decimal places. So if you want the exact answer, if your teacher is asking you, give me the exact solution, you're just leaving that as square root of 12, boom, stop there. But I always think it's okay to estimate it when you're learning it, so you can know about how much that is, especially if you're going to be graphing it. So let's take a look at some of these problems now, and we're going to solve them. These are things that you probably have seen before. They look quite similar, and we're going to solve them for x. Well, the first one's really easy. X squared is equal to 0. What number times itself is equal to 0? Well, to solve it strictly, we'd say the square root of, we'd take the square root of both sides. Square root of x squared gives us x is equal to 0. Some of them get a bit tougher though. This one here, we have to do a little bit of stuff before we take the square root. So this -1 here is along for the ride now with the x squared. We want this x squared to be alone. So we're going to +1 to both sides. That gets rid of this, right? So we'll say x squared is equal to, well, over here now we have 3 + 1, which is 4. So if x squared is equal to 4, we're going to square root both sides now. And we get x is equal to 2 and -2. It's really important that we consider both of those. Right here, the thing that's along for the ride with the x squared is this 2 that's being multiplied to it. So what we do is the opposite of multiplication, opposite of multiplication to get rid of it. So we got to divide both sides by 2. So we get x squared, because these two cancel, is equal to, well, 50 divided by 2, I'll just tell you, is 25. So now to get rid of this squared, we do our square root. So we get x is equal to 5 and -5. We're going to do a couple more. This one here is a bit tricky because we see some other stuff with the x, but we see everything on this left side is being squared. So we can easily just square root it. We want to make sure if we're taking a square root, we typically want everything, we want to like isolate what's being squared. In this case, everything on the left side is being squared. So we're going to square root both sides. So now what we do is we want to say, so when you take the square root of 100, we get 10 and negative 10. But down here, we're not done yet. We have an x plus 6. So we're going to say x plus 6 is equal to 10, and x plus 6 is equal to negative 10. It's really important to consider both sides, both possibilities of the square root when we're solving this. So we have one more step, which is to subtract 6 from both sides. Sorry, yeah, subtract 6 from both sides. So when we subtract 6 from 10, we get x is equal to 4. When we subtract 6 from negative 10, we don't get negative 4. The answer is actually negative 16. So that was a tough one. We'll do one more. This one's a bit simple. I say x squared is equal to 5 plus 4. Well, we don't have to do anything to the equation. We know 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. So we're going to say x squared is equal to 9. Square root both sides, we get x is equal to 3 and negative 3. So I hope this helped. I hope you feel better. I will see you hopefully on Monday. If not, whenever. Have a nice weekend.